Alright, welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Rich. In case you haven't watched any of my videos, it's been a long time since I've made anything, so I apologize for the delay in between videos. In this video, I want to tell kind of more than just a how to build a bike video. I want to tell more than just a this is the components that I selected video, although that will be part of it. I want to tell kind of a bike building story, because anyone that tinkers with bikes ends up with multiple parts and frames and wheel sets and things that get taken on and taken off and re-engineered and reconfigured and rethought out. And this is one of those stories. So way back in 1998, I was in college and I bought my very first mountain bike. It was an entry-level mountain bike. This was a Schwinn Mesa GSX. It was a 1998, I believe, or 1999, I'm not certain. But it was a hardtail, front suspension mountain bike, really quite on the cheap end. So this was like a $400 or $500 bike back then. It was kind of like entry-level mountain bike from a bike shop. And you know what? The truth is, I never really rode it for mountain biking. I rode it around as a commuter, as a college kick-around bike, and that bike stayed in my life for decades until just this last spring. After a little bit of deliberation, I thought, you know what? I just don't use it. I might as well sell it, give it a new home, give it a new lease on life. Now, the Schwinn Mesa GSX was a 3x8 drivetrain. It was kind of heavy, it was kind of junky, but it still did the job. And as soon as I sold it, I kind of had regrets. It was pretty functional. Like, I could have done little things to make that a pretty functional hardtail mountain bike. Now, granted, it was a 26er, and I know everyone is going into 27.5s and 27.5 B plus and boost and 29ers. I know that the market evolves. But the bottom line is, if you're on a budget, an old vintage 26er can be awesome, right? And again, I don't really mountain bike. I'm more of a road/gravel guy in general. I don't know the differences. I don't do enough of that style riding to know the differences. So that's part of it. I felt like I had a gap. I was missing my bike immediately. Even though I wasn't mountain biking, I felt like, what if I want to? What if it ever becomes a moment where I'm like, yeah, I wish I had one, and I have nothing with any kind of suspension whatsoever. So that's part one. Part two is I had years ago bought a bike from Bikes Direct called the Gravity Zilla. That's what this bike frame is, although this bike itself has gone through multiple iterations since then. This bike came as a drop bar 3x8 monster cross bike. And I did some tweaks. I put on fenders and a rack, and it turned into a pretty awesome commuter bike. At that time, I was commuting to my local university where I taught some courses. It was like a 15-minute ride. It was perfect for that, but it was always a heavy bike. At that point, with all the junk on it, it was almost 35 pounds. I wanted to do more with that bike. So I ended up fully deconstructing that bike. I ripped it apart. I weighed every single component, and I have a whole series of videos on the deconstruction of that bike. I built from just the frame, built this back up. I am basically going to be taking this bike apart and using almost all of the components on it to build up a new, to me, 26er hardtail mountain bike. So this is going to be the frame and seat post. This is going to be the bones of the new build. My strategy for this build is going to be to give you weights and prices for everything that goes into this bike build, so you can know exactly what I did to get to where I end up, and you can use that as a platform to kind of engineer your own bike. Because what I find to be the best thing about cycling, well, the best thing about maintenance and working on bikes within the field of cycling is sort of the engineering, the fact that what you ride can be something that you've put thought into and created your own unique entity. Of course, it's great to go to a shop and buy a bike, and it'll be an awesome bike, but there's a lot of pride and sort of, it's nice to know the nuances, every single little nuance of the bike that you build. So I'm going to be pairing this Chinese carbon 26er mountain bike frame. It's a BSA threaded bottom bracket. What else do you need to know? It is internal cable routed, and it is going to be mated to a 26er specific air suspension. This is a no-name suspension in America. It's another Chinese brand. I get all this crap on eBay. The reason is because I don't have a lot of money to do what I'm trying to do, so I have to get the best deals. And the best deals for me are on eBay, and a lot of the stuff comes from China. it's probably the same companies or manufacturers that make the stuff you buy with the name brand here for like a quarter or a third of the cost. That's debatable. People will probably take me to task on that, but that's how I've decided to see the world. You don't have to see it that way. Everything is going on to this. A couple tweaks that I'll mention, but essentially all this stuff is going to be put onto this bicycle. So that's my project. We'll see how the build goes. It should be really pretty quick. All I'm doing is ripping stuff off of here, putting them onto here. Should go quick. Every single component, I'll give you a weight and a price for what it cost me, and then in the end, we'll do a quick summary. I really hope you enjoy this. I hope you get something out of the story of another bike build, and I also hope that in the long term, I'll be able to do a bit more of these videos without like a year and a half gap in between.